Breaking news for the Ripple and XRP community as Judge Torres has denied the SEC and Ripple's joint motion for an indicative ruling. And what this tells us is the XRP case is not over yet. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. And you are going to want to stick around for the entire episode today, as we are going to be highlighting not only what's happening in the Ripple versus SEC case, but how this could actually end up creating the supply shock the XRP community has been waiting for. If you enjoy this content, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the brand new Good Evening Crypto channel. Here's the breaking news from this morning. The SEC versus Ripple case continues here. In 2024, the court had ordered Ripple to stop future violations and to pay $125 million civil penalty, which was reduced from nearly $1 billion. Well, in May of 2025, just a couple of months ago, Ripple and the SEC came together and both asked the court to remove the permanent obey the law injunction. This would allow Ripple to sell XRP directly to institutions inside the United States. They also asked the court to amend the civil penalty from $125 million to only $50 million. Now, surprisingly for the XRP community, Judge Torres denied their joint request. What she stated was Ripple's misconduct was serious and ongoing. The injunction is important because there's still a real risk of Ripple breaking the law going forward, and that the penalty helps protect public trust in the crypto markets and cannot be reduced just because both parties want to settle. The SEC then responded by defending Ripple, stating they should be allowed to operate inside the United States going forward. The exact amendments were, the SEC said public interest is now small, but Judge Torres disagreed. The SEC said other crypto cases have already been dismissed, but Judge Torres said those cases didn't involve permanent injunctions. They also stated that Ripple had changed, but Judge said that Ripple still hasn't proven it will not violate laws going forward. Judge Torres closed out her argument by stating this: if Ripple and the SEC want this case to end, they can withdraw their individual appeals, but I will not cancel the court's orders unless the legal standards are truly met. So in summary, here's where we are today. Both Ripple and the SEC have agreed that this court case should be put to rest, and Judge Torres is defending her decision that not only did Ripple sell XRP as a security, she is also stating that Ripple may continue to do this, disregarding the injunction that she has applied. We're now in a situation that I believe nobody anticipated. The SEC is now defending Ripple, asking the judge to make these amendments, both reducing the fine from $125 million to $50 and allowing XRP to be sold directly from Ripple to institutions inside the United States. And the reason for this is because they disagree that XRP is not only not a security, but that it should be offered directly from Ripple. One's if you agree with Judge Torres' ruling. Two's underneath the video if you think this ruling is quite frankly doing a disservice to the XRP community. Well, Ripple's chief legal officer, Stuart Alderati, also chimed in on this issue, telling the XRP community that the ball is back in our court. And here's the direct statement. With this, the ball is back in our court. The court gave Ripple two options: to dismiss our appeal, challenging the finding on the historic institutional sales, or press forward with the appeal. Stay tuned, says Ripple, because either way, XRP's legal status as not a security remains unchanged. We also received this massive confirmation from Meta Lawman on Twitter, which states the SEC and Ripple do not need permission from any court to dismiss their appeals. My guess is we will see the dismissals of both appeals soon, because the lawyers on both sides have anticipated this outcome, that Judge Torres would not vacate her prior ruling. So this tells me that going forward, the SEC and Ripple can both dismiss their appeals and end this lawsuit by paying the $125 million fine, accepting the injunction that was applied from Judge Torres. So with this official ruling from Judge Torres, one thing that we know for sure, this court case is not over yet. And the XRP community continues to believe that until this court case is over, we will see price suppression for XRP. But what I'd like to do is put a positive spin on this news, showing our listeners how this exact court case ruling could cause the supply shock we've all been waiting for in the XRP community. Giving you all a brief update on where the XRP price is trading today. Based on this news, we saw the price of XRP go from about $2.20 to $2.10, which I would consider to be fairly insignificant price action for such an important update. Our analysis remains the same. We need a daily closure above $2.60 on the XRP price chart, followed by a weekly closure above $2.85, and it is off to the races for the XRP community. But more specifically, in this Judge Torres ruling, she tells Ripple they are not allowed to sell XRP directly to institutions inside the United States. That means that big players who want to accrue meaningful bags of XRP will have to go directly to the exchanges in order to accumulate those large bags. An example of this would be if a company has $100 million ready to invest in XRP, it's going to be extremely difficult to go and get that done on the order books for Coinbase, for Uphold, for Kraken, and so on. Instead, Instead, what these large players do is they go to these exchanges behind the scenes and get the best possible rate for the largest amount of crypto. And this analysis corresponds perfectly with the supply shock I showed you all yesterday, as two major exchanges, both Binance and Upbit, have massive amounts of XRP drained from their reserves. And for Upbit, they went from 6.5 billion units of XRP to 1 billion units. And for Binance, they went from nearly 3 billion XRP down to just 2.2 billion. What I believe is occurring here is large institutional players are going to these exchanges and buying XRP through over-the-counter transactions. That means when you bring $1 billion of capital to these exchanges, they're going to give you a discounted rate as opposed to someone like myself, leading them to accumulate large without impacting the order books on some of our major exchanges. And it's not just Good Evening Crypto who sees the writing on the wall. Jay Claver commented, the setup for a massive supply shock continues. And the reason for this is because now big companies are going to be forced to go to exchanges inside the United States in order to accumulate large bags of XRP. They do not have the ability to go directly to Ripple and get these transactions done over the counter and behind the scenes. So live chat, I would love to hear, ones, if you believe this could be a positive catalyst for the XRP price chart. Twos, if you think that this will be a nothing burger going forward, but I believe this is going to be a massive deal. This is going to force exchanges, specifically inside the United States, to diminish their reserves in order to sell XRP to the largest institutions on the planet. And it starts right here in 2025. But once a market structure bill is implemented towards the back end of this year, we are going to see countries all around the world going to exchanges in order to accumulate XRP. And for this very reason alone, I agree with Jay Claver that this could create the supply shock we have all been waiting for. Live chat, ones if you agree, twos if you disagree, but the data speaks for itself. There is only a small amount of XRP available to exchanges today, and there are billions, if not trillions of dollars sitting on the sidelines ready to enter these capital markets. And going forward, they are not going to be allowed to go to Ripple behind the scenes to get these transactions done, but instead, they're going to be pulling liquidity off of exchanges, directly impacting the XRP price. Here's a quick update from John Deaton. Here it is.
And the judge Torres threw a curveball. So first of all, you cited the wrong rule. Second of all, you haven't demonstrated to the court that there are exceptional circumstances for me, Judge Torres, who followed the law and issued an injunction, for me to just say, I changed my mind, I'm going to dissolve the injunction. You got to do some effort. You got to show me some stuff, right? You got to meet this high standard. It's actually a high standard of exceptional circumstances. And so she said, come back to me. So I thought, shit, right? She's pissed off. For one, look at all the time that she spent on this case, 4.5 years, the amount of hours and resources and money and effort that was expended on this case. And all of a sudden the SEC says, "Psych, we changed our mind, Judge. We wanted $1.3 billion in a fine. And now we want you to take your $125 million fine and reduce it by 60%. She wants a little bit more. So I thought that the SEC and Ripple would put together a brief that'd be a little bit more than what they did.
So in summary, here's what I'm anticipating. Not only are we going to see both the SEC and Ripple conclude this case, probably by paying the $125 million fine, but also accepting the fact that Ripple will not be able to sell XRP directly to institutions inside the United States. But there are two major catalysts on the horizon that could change the impact of this ruling overall. And I think the first one is the market structure bill, which is set to be implemented in August of 2025. From that point forward, institutions all across the world, they're not going to look towards this ruling from Judge Torres as guidance for how to interact with the digital asset class. Instead, they're going to say, hey, Congress has given us clear rules of the road, and that is what we're going to be following going forward. But even if this indicative ruling prevents Ripple from selling XRP directly inside the United States, that could work in favor of the XRP community for the exact reasons that I have described prior in this episode, that this will create a supply shock for United States exchanges. And as we've been covering here on Good Evening Crypto, not only do we have the market structure bill working in our favor, we have 19 different XRP ETF applications from $2 trillion worth of asset managers ready to not only buy XRP off the open market, but begin selling blockchain products just like this to millions of clients all around the world. So with that being said, my belief is the Ripple versus SEC case is no longer suppressing the price of XRP. And although we may see trillions of dollars worth of new capital come in after this lawsuit, I believe that is going to be due to the market structure bill and not due to Judge Torres' ruling. But live chat, I would love to hear from you. One's if you believe this is suppressing the price of XRP. Two's if you think XRP is going to survive and thrive regardless of what this court case ruled. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the brand new Good Evening Crypto channel, and we'll see you all in the next one.